A gunshot split the night wide open. Clara Reeves staggered through the dust outside Redwater Station, one hand pressed against the fresh burn of a bullet grazing her side. Lantern light swung wildly behind her as 3 riders thundered closer, shouting accusations she'd prayed would never reach this town. Her brother's blood was still wet on her boots. She hadn't pulled the trigger, but the outlaw who had was gone, leaving only a promise whispered through fading breath. Find me at dawn. I'll make this right. Now dawn was only hours away, and those riders would reach her first unless the outlaw kept his word. The wind carried the smell of wood smoke and spilled whiskey as Clara stepped through the saloon doors. Her boots wavered beneath her. Every heartbeat pushed pain through her ribs where the bullet had grazed her. She couldn't bleed here. She couldn't leave a trail. The piano stuttered to silence. Heads lifted. The usual drunken haze of Redwater froze, like the whole room could smell the trouble she dragged behind her. Clara swallowed the tremor climbing her throat. She forced herself to the bar and lowered herself onto a stool. Whiskey, she rasped, and a clean cloth. The barkeep, a hard-eyed man with sleeves rolled high, studied her too long. His gaze dropped to the dark stain spreading near her waist. Rough night, traveler. Clara ignored the question. Ignoring questions was safer than answering them. She pressed the cloth to her side, teeth clenched. All she could see was her brother Caleb collapsing in the sand. The flash of gunfire, his eyes wide with betrayal, not pain. You said you'd keep him safe, he'd whispered before the last breath scraped out of him. Her hands shook. She swallowed the memory down with a shot of burning whiskey. She needed cash and bail, not justice, not revenge, survival. Word was he rode through Redwater 3 nights ago, the same night Caleb died. And just before he vanished, he grabbed Clara by the arm and hissed the promise in her ear. Meet me at dawn, Redwater Station. I'll make this right. Why would a murderer offer salvation? Why spare her at all? Clara didn't care about motives anymore. She cared about living long enough to demand answers. Boots thundered against the wooden porch outside. Voices, too many. Clara stiffened. The barkeep leaned closer, his voice low. If you're looking to leave, I'd reckon now's the time. Clara rose, pushing through the swinging doors. 5 riders dismounted, guns visible even in the pale moonlight. The Whitlock sigil burned into their coats to cross spurs. Her pulse surged. They weren't supposed to be here yet. The lead rider scanned the street, jaw clenched. Find the girl, he growled. She's here somewhere. Boss wants her alive. Alive for now. Clara backed into the alley, breath trembling. She pressed her palm to her wound. She had hours before dawn, hours to find Cashin, but Redwater had already begun hunting her. Clara used the shadows as shelter, slipping between stacked crates and rusted barrels behind the saloon. Every step sent pain through her side, but stopping meant capture. The riders spread across the street like wolves, checking doors, windows, corners. Their horses huffed steam into the cold night air. Boots crunched through gravel to close. She ducked behind the water trough, breath shallow, fingers trembling against wet wood. Why me? Caleb had stolen a pouch of gold from Cashin Vale. Clara tried to return it, but she'd been too late. Caleb had lied to her, lied to protect her, lied until the truth spilled with his blood into the dirt. Cashin's bullet should have killed him. Clara should hate the outlaw, but the Whitlocks were worse. She had seen what they did to thieves. Bones hung from their camp trees as warnings. A rider stepped into the alley mouth. Clara froze. His lantern beam skimmed the walls, moving toward her hiding place. The beam stopped. Her heartbeat roared in her ears. Then hoofbeats. Fast. A single rider barreled down the street. The lantern light jerked away as the rider turned. A gunshot cracked. The saloon windows exploded outward. Clara seized the distraction and sprinted past the trough toward the stables. Her breath tore from her lungs, feet slipping in the dirt. She shoved into the dark stable, slamming the door behind her. The smell of hay and sweat hit her nose. Horses shifted nervously, reacting to the gunfire outside. Clara pressed her back against a stall, wincing. A calm voice broke the dark. You're late. Clara's knees nearly buckled. She turned. Cashin Vale stepped out from the shadows, hat low, revolver still smoking. His eyes gleamed beneath the brim, cold, unreadable, but focused entirely on her. He wasn't supposed to be here until dawn. You said. I know what I said, he cut in. Plans changed. The Whitlocks are moving sooner than expected. Clara pushed away from the stall, pain sharpening her voice. You killed my brother. Cashin holstered his gun slowly. Your brother sealed his fate long before I pulled the trigger. Clara's throat tightened. Rage and grief tangled inside her, twisting until she could barely breathe. Why keep me alive? Cashin stepped closer. Because Caleb stole more than gold, and they think you know where the rest is. A fist pounded the stable doors. Clara flinched. Cashin drew his gun again, jaw set. We don't have time for questions. The doors shuddered under another blow. Wood splintered. Cashin grabbed Clara's arm and pulled her toward the back exit. Outside, another shadow moved toward them, someone waiting. Cashin cursed under his breath. Clara's blood went cold. Nowhere was safe. The night swallowed them the moment. Cashin shoved Clara through the rear stable door. Horses snorted nervously behind them. Lantern light spilled through the cracks as fists slammed the entrance again. Cashin whistled low, sharp. A dark mare trotted from the shadows, reins loose. Before Clara could protest, he hoisted her onto the saddle. Pain ripped through her, forcing a strangled gasp. Cashin mounted behind her and wrapped one arm around her waist, holding the reins with the other. Hold on. He kicked the horse hard. The stable doors burst open as they shot into the open desert. Gunshots flared behind them, muzzle flashes cutting the night. Bullets whipped past, slicing wine near Clara's cheek. Cashin leaned low into her back, murmuring, "Don't look back." But Clara did. The riders spilled into the street like a flood of steel and fury. Their horses churned dust beneath pounding hooves. Cashin steered them toward a narrow pass carved into the canyon. The horse slipped on loose shale, but Cashin's grip held steady. Clara clutched the saddle horn, fighting dizziness. The wound pulsed like fire with every jolt. "Why are they doing this?" she whispered. Cashin didn't answer. The pass narrowed. Jagged rock walls rose on both sides. Echoes of hoofbeats bounced through the darkness like taunts. Finally, Cashin spoke, voice low. "Caleb didn't just steal gold. He stole the Whitlock's ledger. Names, deals, bribes. If that gets out, half the territory falls." Clara's fingers went numb. "Caleb was reckless, stubborn, but this. He never told me," she whispered. Cashin's silence suggested doubt. The path twisted sharply. Clara nearly fell before Cashin pulled her upright. Behind them, distant gunfire echoed through the canyon. "They'll track us," Cashin muttered. "Only a matter of time." Clara sagged, exhaustion dragging at her limbs. "Then tell me where we're going." Cashin hesitated. "My old hideout," he said finally. "The Black Mesa camp. Only place the Whitlocks won't rush. Too many guns waiting." Clara stiffened. "More outlaws. Better devils than the ones behind us." As they rode, the canyon walls opened to the dark sprawl of mesas stretching across the horizon. Clara's pulse slowed enough for fear to sharpen into suspicion. "What happens when we get there?" Cashin didn't answer, just tightened his grip. The silence was more terrifying than any threat. The first hints of dawn brushed the mesa edges in pale gray as Cashin slowed the mare toward a cliffside ravine. Faint smoke curled upward from somewhere below. A hidden camp. Clara's pulse quickened. 3 armed men appeared on the ridge above, rifles raised. Before Cashin could signal, a bullet ricocheted off a boulder near his boot. A voice barked, "Identify yourself." Cashin lifted his hands slightly from the reins. "Vale, stand down." There was a long pause, then rough laughter rolled across the ridge. "Well, I'll be damned," one man drawled. "Thought you got yourself killed." "Not yet," Cashin muttered. The men lowered their weapons and signaled them to follow a narrow switchback trail. Clara gripped the saddle as the horse navigated loose stones and steep drops. At the bottom, the Black Mesa camp emerged, tents nestled against rock. Horses tethered, campfires burning low. Rough-looking outlaws paused their morning tasks, eyes narrowing at Clara. A broad-shouldered man with silver streaks in his beard strode forward. His presence quieted the others. "Cashin," he said flatly, "you brought trouble to my doorstep." Cashin dismounted and steadied Clara as she slipped from the saddle, legs buckling. "We need shelter, Flint," Cashin said. "Just for a few hours." Flint's gaze flicked to Clara's wound. "Who's the girl?" "No one," Cashin replied too quickly. Clara bristled. "I'm Clara Reeves. My brother." Flint's expression darkened. "Caleb Reeves." The camp shifted uneasily. Clara's stomach clenched. Flint stepped closer, voice dropping. "Your brother stole from us too. Gold meant for a trade with the Whitlocks." Cashin's jaw tightened. "We don't have time." Flint cut him off. "We do if you expect shelter." Clara's breath caught. "I don't know where the gold is." Flint studied her, like weighing the truth beneath her skin. "Maybe you don't," he said, "but the Whitlocks think you do. And they're coming." Cashin stepped between them. "We stay until dawn. Then we ride north." Flint's eyes narrowed. "Not until you prove she ain't a liability." "I won't risk the camp." Cashin's hand drifted toward his gun. "Flint," the older man raised a hand. "Put the iron away. I'm giving you a choice. Either she talks, or we turn her in." Clara's blood ran cold. Her legs trembled, breath shallow. Cashin's silence spoke louder than any threat. Was he weighing the same choice? Flint leaned in, voice like gravel. "Last chance. Where's the rest of the gold?" Clara opened her mouth, but she truly didn't know. And the camp seemed ready to tear her apart for it. The camp erupted in shouts as Cashin stepped between Clara and Flint. Gun finally drawn. For a heartbeat. Nobody breathed. Then steel scraped against holsters as other outlaws reached for weapons. Clara felt the world tilting, blood loss, panic, or both. Cashin, Flint warned. Voice steady but eyes sharp. Don't throw away your life for a girl who ain't worth the lead. Cashin didn't waver. She ain't the one you should fear. The Whitlocks are comin'. You hand her over. They'll get every man in this camp to keep the secret buried. A murmur rippled through the outlaws. Fear. Doubt. Flint's jaw worked. We've got guns. We'll hold. Cashin shook his head. You don't understand. Caleb took proof. Names of every man who paid the Whitlocks for protection. Judges. Rangers. Even our own. Clara flinched. She didn't know how deep the betrayal ran. Flint's eyes narrowed. And where is this proof? Clara swallowed hard. Her voice trembled. He never told me. Flint's gaze bored into her, unreadable. Cashin spoke before Flint could. Caleb planned to meet someone north of the canyon, someone who could expose the Whitlocks. He made me promise that if he fell, I'd get Clara there. Clara stared at Cashin. Her voice cracked. Promise? Before he died, he begged you. Cashin's jaw tightened. His gaze flickered to the ground. A man dyin' has a way of his skin favors no decent soul can refuse. Clara's chest ached. Grief twisted into something sharp, hope tangled with betrayal. Flint spat into the dirt. So she's leverage. A message. A reason for the Whitlocks to wipe us out. Cashin stepped closer to Clara, lowering his voice. We leave now, before the sun's fully up. Clara stared past him toward the ridge. Pale light crept across the horizon, revealing dust clouds far in the distance. Riders. They were coming fast. Flint saw it too. His hardened expression cracked, fear slipping through before rage replaced it. You led them here, he snarled. You damned us all. Cashin raised his revolver again. I gave you the choice. The outlaws drew steel. Clara's pulse hammered. She had no gun, no plan. The Whitlocks closed in from one side. Cashin's own men from the other. She was the spark between the powder kegs, and dawn was striking the match. The first Whitlock rifle fired from the ridge, the crack echoing down the canyon. A bullet tore through the shoulder of an outlaw near Clara. The camp erupted. Men scrambled for cover, gunfire roaring across the mesa. Horses shrieked and ripped from their tethers. Cashin grabbed Clara's wrist and yanked her behind a stack of crates. Stay down. I can't just hide. Clara shouted over the gunfire. Cashin shoved a revolver into her shaking hands. You want to live, then fight. The metal felt heavy, unfamiliar. Clara's pulse thundered. She'd never fired a gun before. Caleb used to tease her about flinching at fireworks. Now men were dying around her. Cashin fired from behind cover, dropping a Whitlock rider sliding down the ridge. Flint barked orders, rallying his men, but panic fractured their ranks. They were outnumbered. Clara peeked over the crates. Dust clouds swarmed the mesa edge, more Whitlocks pouring in. We can't hold them, Clara gasped. We don't need to, Cashin said. We just need a way out. Another bullet splintered the crate inches from Clara's head. She ducked, heart slamming. Cashin pointed toward a narrow crevice along the canyon wall. Back route. Small enough they'll bottleneck. We get there, we stand a chance. Clara followed his gaze and saw Flint moving toward them. Gun raised not at the enemy, but at her. I ain't dyin' for her, Flint snarled. Cashin stepped in front of Clara, aiming at Flint. Don't move, Flint growled, or I'll put you down first. Clara felt something break inside her, not fear, but a cold clarity. She lifted the revolver, hands trembling. Please, she whispered, don't make me do this. Flint sneered. You ain't got it in you. He cocked the hammer. Clara squeezed the trigger. The shot ripped through the chaos, louder than the rest because it was hers. Flint staggered, shock frozen on his face before he crumpled into the dust. Clara's breath shattered. Her whole body trembled. Cashin grabbed her arm. We move, now. There was no time to grieve, no time to understand what she'd done. They sprinted toward the canyon wall as bullets tore through the air. Clara fired blindly behind her, each shot jolting her arm. The crevice loomed ahead like a slit in the rock. They dove inside just as the ridge erupted in a fresh hail of gunfire. Cashin turned to her, breath ragged. You kept Caleb's promise better than I did. Clara met his eyes, not with trust, but something harder. Survival. Resolve. For the first time since Caleb died, she spoke without shaking. What do we do now? Cashin looked toward the rising sun. We finish what he started. Clara tightened her grip on the revolver. The outlaw's promise had become her only salvation, and now, her responsibility.